You know that feeling, right? When your to-do list just seems endless and you kind of feel like time itself is, I don't know, broken.
Oh, absolutely. Like that quote, time is what keeps everything from happening at once.
Yeah.
Lately, it doesn't seem to be working. So many people feel that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're drowning in tasks. If that sounds familiar, well, you're definitely in the right place for this deep dive.
It's such a common modern problem, isn't it? That constant feeling of being behind, never quite catching up. And that's precisely what we want to tackle today.
And we're not just talking theory here. We're getting really practical, digging into David Allen's Getting Things Done. Think of this as a toolkit for getting some control back, maybe lowering the stress levels a bit.
Yeah, and it's got a solid reputation for being genuinely useful. People often say the idea seems simple, almost deceptively so, but they're incredibly practical and can actually lead to, well, immediate results if you apply them.
Immediate results. I like the sound of that. So the mission today is basically to unpack the core ideas of GTD, getting things done, and show how you can, start using them, like right now.
And the interesting thing is, it's not about learning crazy new skills. It's stuff you already know how to do, like focusing, writing things down, making decisions.
Right. It's about leveraging those skills you already have, just maybe more effectively, more systematically.
Exactly that. It's a framework to optimize how you operate, based on, decades of coaching real people, seeing what actually works.
Okay, so let's think about work itself. Maybe how it used to be. Things felt clearer, right? Like tasks had a definite start and finish. You milked the cows, you packed the boxes, done.
You could see the end. But now, wow, it's different. Projects often feel like they have no edges, no clear boundaries.
Yeah, no edges. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And there's always more information, isn't there? More you could be doing or looking into.
Exactly. Which, unsurprisingly, leads to a lot of stress for people. It feels overwhelming.
Totally. And this brings us to a really core idea in GTD, which is, well, getting stuff out of your head.
Yes. Because what happens when you try to keep track of everything mentally? Every little task, every idea, every promise you made?
It's exhausting. They just bounce around in there.
Alan calls them open loops or incompletes. Anything pulling at your attention that isn't, resolved or parked somewhere safe. Big stuff, tiny stuff, doesn't matter.
And it's not just that you might forget, it's that they drain your focus, right? Your brain keeps reminding you, nudging you.
Constantly. So the whole point of GTT is to capture like 100% of that stuff, work, personal ideas, everything, and get it into objective tools you trust. Externalize it.
Create some mental white space.
Precisely. And it's important to capture all of it. Even the little things like buy toothpaste, because they add to that background hum of anxiety if they're just floating around in your head.
Okay, so why do these things stick in our minds so stubbornly? What's the mechanism there?
Well, according to Allen, there are usually three main reasons. First, you haven't actually clarified what done looks like. What's the real outcome you want?
Okay, lack of clarity on the goal. What else?
Second, you haven't decided the very next physical action step. What's the actual thing you need to do next to move it forward?
Right, not just deal with email, but reply to Bob's email about the budget
Yeah.
specifics.
Exactly. And third, you haven't put reminders of that outcome and that next action into a system you actually trust and look at regularly.
That makes so much sense. If you don't know the goal, the next step, and you don't trust your reminder system,
Well, yeah, your brain's going to keep holding on to it, like a dog with a bone.
it can't let go. It doesn't trust that anything else will handle it. And all that mental energy spent reminding yourself is energy you can't use for actual thinking or doing.
Such a drain. Which leads to this maybe counterintuitive idea in GTD, the bottom-up approach.
Yeah, when you feel totally swamped, you might think, I need to tackle my biggest goal.
The 5-year plan. But GTD suggests starting at ground level. Deal with the messy stuff right in front of you, the overflowing inbox, the pile on your desk.
Why does that work better?
Because you get immediate wins. You build a sense of control. Trying to think about huge strategic things when your day-to-day is chaos is, well, often impossible. Clear the small stuff first.
Like clearing the decks before setting sail.
Exactly. Get current first. Which brings us neatly to the first practical step, capture.
Okay, capture. This is about getting every single one of those open loops out of your head and into what? Like a box?
Into some kind of in-basket or collection tool. Could be a physical tray, a notebook, a digital app, an email inbox, whatever works for you. Multiple tools even.
So these are just holding places, not where you organize things.
Correct. They're temporary holding zones. You just dump everything in there. Ideas, tasks, notes, emails, knowing you'll process it later.
Wow.
The absolute key is making sure everything gets captured somewhere other than your brain.
And you have to empty these collection tools regularly, right? Otherwise, they just become another pile of stress.
Oh, totally non-negotiable. If the capture tools overflow, the whole system collapses. You have to trust that things move through them.
Okay, so I've captured all my stuff. It's sitting in my in-basket, digital or physical. Now what? Step 2 is process.
Yes, process. This is where you pick up each item one by one from your in-basket and decide what it is and what needs to happen.
One by one, no skipping around.
Definitely one by one. Avoids that habit of picking something up, feeling unsure, putting it back down, and creating those dreaded, I'll get to it later, piles.
The stacks. Got it. So what are the decisions I need to make for each item?
There are basically 5 options. 1, is it trash? No longer needed, get rid of it.
Okay, easy enough.
2, can you do it in 2 minutes or less? If yes, do it right then and there.
The famous 2-minute rule. That sounds powerful for just knocking things out.
It really is. Amazing how many things fall into that category. 3, is it something someone else should do? If so, delegate it.
Okay, trash, do, delegate. What else?
4, is it something you need to do, but it will take longer than 2 minutes, or it needs to happen later? Then you need to defer it, basically. Sort it into your organizing system as a reminder for later action.
Defer it. Okay. And the 5th option?
5, does it represent a larger outcome that requires more than one action step? If yes, that's a project, and you need to record that outcome on a projects list.
So a project is anything with more than one step, like plan vacation or organize garage.
Exactly, even if it's just 2 steps. Identifying these projects is key. And often, when you identify a project, you also need to figure out the very next action for it, which then gets deferred or maybe done if it's under 2 minutes.
Right, so organize garage isn't an action. The next action might be measure space for shelves or call junk removal service.
Precisely. You have to break it down into that next physical thing you can actually do.
Yeah.
That's crucial for processing.
And you mentioned a pending stack or category earlier. Where does that fit in?
Yes. After you process, items that you've decided to defer, do later, or that you've delegated, waiting for someone else, effectively become pending. They've been processed, the next action is decided, but now they need to be organized properly so you don't forget them.
Okay, that makes sense. It's the transition to the next phase. Organize.
Exactly. So phase 3, organize. We've captured, we've processed, and decided. Now we need to put these reminders and projects into a system we trust.
Let's start with organizing the individual actions, the stuff we deferred. You mentioned organizing by context. What does that look like?
This is super practical. Instead of one giant to-do list, you group actions based on the context you need to be in to do them. Like a list for at phone, all the calls you need to make.
So when I have a few minutes and a phone, I just look at that list.
Bingo. Or add computer for tasks needing your computer. Add errands for things you need to do when you're out and about.
Oh, I like that. You could have at-home tasks, at-office tasks.
Yes. Also, add agendas is a great one. Lists of things to discuss with specific people or in specific meetings. Maybe at read review for articles or documents. At waiting for things you've delegated and are waiting to get back.
The at-errands one could even be split, maybe. Like at grocery store versus at hardware store.
Absolutely. You can customize it however it makes sense for you. The point is, when you find yourself in a certain context with time, energy, and the right tools, you can instantly see all the actions you can do right then.
That seems way more efficient than scanning a massive list trying to find something relevant. What about emails or notes that triggered these actions? Do I copy them onto these lists?
Sometimes the reminder is the email itself, flag in your inbox, or a note in a digital system linked to the task. Or you might jot down a brief action note and file the supporting paper. The key is linking the action reminder to any necessary background info.
Okay, that handles individual actions. What about organizing those projects? We identified the multi-step outcomes.
You absolutely need a dedicated projects list. This is your master inventory of all those commitments requiring more than one step. It could be a page in your planner, a category in your software, whatever. Just one place where you can see all your open projects.
One master list. Or broken down.
Could be either, but the crucial part is reviewing the entire list regularly, maybe weekly, to get the big picture.
And all the stuff related to projects, notes, files, ideas.
That's support material. You need a way to manage that too so it doesn't get lost. Could be digital folders, physical files labeled by project, notes attached in your app. The goal is never lose an idea and find what you need when you work on the project.
Makes sense. You also mentioned reference systems. That's for non-actionable stuff.
Exactly. Information you want to keep but don't need to act on. Think general reference files, maybe alphabetical contact info, archived project materials. Just needs to be simple and findable.
What about those cool ideas that aren't projects yet, like learn Spanish or build a deck?
That's what the Someday Maybe list is for. A fantastic parking lot for things you might want to do. Someday maybe. It keeps them out of your active system until you decide to commit. But you do need to look at this list regularly too.
So it doesn't become a graveyard for good intentions.
Precisely. Avoid those hold and review piles that just gather dust.
Okay, and then there's the tickler file. Sounds intriguing. 43 folders.
Yeah, it's a physical date-based reminder system. One folder for each day of the current month, 131, and one for each of the next 12 months. If you need to see something on, say, June 15th, you put it in the 15 folder. On June 1st, you check the one folder, deal with its contents, and then file that empty one folder at the back, ready for July 1st.
Wow, old school but clever, like a physical notification system.
It works surprisingly well for date-specific reminders or materials.
Mm-hmm.
And then checklists. You mentioned those are important.
Yeah.
Hugely important. For everything from like your core life values down to things that take camping. Checklists reduce the mental load, ensure consistency, and help you know what you don't need to worry about right now.
Okay, final bit on organize. The space and the tools.
Right. Having a dedicated workspace helps focus. Even a small portable kit for when you're on the go. And importantly, you have to use the tools. Don't just set them up.
Digital versus paper, doesn't matter.
Not really. Whatever works for you. Simple, fast, reliable, maybe even enjoyable to use. That's the key. You just need effective ways to manage your lists. Fancy tools aren't the answer. Consistent use is.
Okay. Captured, processed, organized. What's next? Review.
Step 4. Review. Absolutely critical. This is where you step back and look at the whole system to make sure it's current and trustworthy.
How often? What kind of review?
Different levels need different frequencies, but the non-negotiable one for most people is the weekly review. This is like your command center meeting with yourself.
Weekly review sounds like another task. Why is it so vital?
Because it gives you perspective.
Yeah.
It's your chance to look at all your projects, your upcoming calendar, your waiting for items, your action lists, get clear, get current, and make good choices about the week ahead. You clean up loose ends, maybe you renegotiate commitments with yourself or others.
So it's preventative maintenance for your sanity and productivity.
That's a great way to put it. It ensures the system stays trustworthy, which lets your brain relax.
Okay, brings us to the final core step, do. Actually getting things done.
Yep. The whole point of the first 4 steps is to make this do step easier and more effective, to help you make the best choices about what to work on at any given moment.
So you move from just reacting to, what, intentionally choosing.
Exactly. Moving from hope to trust. Trusting that because you've captured, processed, organized, and reviewed, you can now confidently choose the right thing to do.
And how do you make that choice? There are still probably lots of options on those lists.
Alan provides a 4-criteria model for choosing actions in the moment. You apply them in order. First, context. What can you do right now, given where you are and the tools you have?
Okay, that narrows it down immediately. If I'm at my computer, I look at the computer list.
Right. Second, time available. How much time do you actually have before your next commitment?
Choose a task that fits the time slot. Makes sense.
Third, energy available. What's your mental and physical state? Are you sharp and focused or kind of dragging?
So match the task to your energy. Don't try to write the complex report when you're exhausted.
Exactly. Maybe do some filing or easy emails instead. Keep a list of low-energy tasks handy for those times.
Context, time, energy. What's the 4th criterion?
Fourth, and only after considering the first 3, is priority. Given your context, time, and energy, what is the most important or highest leverage thing you can do from the available options?
So priority isn't the first thing you look at.
Interesting. Because if you don't have the context, time, or energy, the priority doesn't matter. You can't do it anyway. This model helps you make realistic choices.
What about unexpected stuff? The boss drops a crisis on your desk.
That happens. GTD acknowledges ad hoc work. The goal is to make a conscious choice. You glance at your trusted system, see your other commitments, and then decide, okay, is this new thing the most important thing for me to do right now, even displacing my planned work? It's not just reacting blindly.
That moment-to-moment balancing act. Having the system gives you the grounding to make that choice well.
Precisely. And briefly, Alan also talks about reviewing your work at different altitudes from the runway, current actions, up to 50,000 feet, life purpose. But the weekly review covers that crucial middle ground.
Okay, that covers the horizontal management, handling the flow of tasks. But there's also a vertical aspect, right?
Right.
Planning specific projects.
Yes, exactly. Getting projects under control often requires more focused vertical thinking. This is where the natural planning model comes in handy.
Natural planning model.
Yeah.
Sounds intuitive.
It really is, because it mirrors how our minds naturally approach creating things. It has 5 stages. First, define the purpose and principles. Why are you doing this? What are the guiding values or boundaries?
Start with why. Got it.
Second, envision the outcome. What does wild success look like? Really visualize it. This creates focus and generates energy.
Okay, purpose, then vision. What's next?
Third, brainstorm. Once you know the why and the what, let the ideas flow for the how. Get everything out there, no judgment, quantity over quality initially.
Just generate raw material.
Yep. Fourth, organize. Look at the brainstormed ideas. Identify key components, themes, sequences, priorities. Structure emerges naturally from the brainstorming.
Okay, makes sense. And the fifth stage?
Fifth, identify next actions. Once it's organized, figure out the very next physical steps needed to get the ball rolling on the different components.
Purpose, vision, brainstorm, organize, next actions. That does feel natural. How does this compare to how projects often get tackled in reality?
Often, people jump straight to brainstorming or organizing without clarity on the purpose or vision. Or they just try to work harder without a plan. That's the unnatural model, often inefficient and frustrating.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that happen. Starting with why seems so fundamental for motivation and good decisions.
Absolutely. And having that clear vision really does help generate ideas and keep you focused. Brainstorming works best when you know what you're brainstorming for.
And if a project feels stuck, maybe revisiting this natural planning process could help.
Definitely. Often, a project is stuck because one of these planning steps hasn't been done thoroughly enough. Maybe the next action isn't clear, or the purpose got fuzzy.
What about tools for this kind of planning?
Sometimes just thinking on a computer, using outlining or mind mapping tools, can be great for capturing and rearranging ideas. But honestly, pen and paper are fantastic for rapid brainstorming too. Often, simple is best. Don't get bogged down in complex project software unless you really need it.
Good advice. Now, shifting gears slightly, Alan talks about negative feelings around work stress, guilt, overwhelm. Where does he say that often comes from?
It's a powerful insight. He suggests it often stems from broken agreements we've made with ourselves, commitments we took on, consciously or unconsciously, that we haven't fulfilled.
Broken agreements, like saying I'd call someone back and not doing it, or promising myself I'd clean the closet.
Exactly, big or small. And he says there are really only 3 ways to deal with the commitment you've made. 1, don't make the agreement in the first place. Learn to say no more effectively.
That's liberating in itself.
Isn't it? 2, complete the agreement. Just do the thing. Even small completions build momentum and reduce psychic drag.
Get it off the list, off your mind.
Yeah.
And the third way?
3, renegotiate the agreement. If you realize you can't or won't do it as originally promised, consciously change the agreement with yourself or the other person involved. Maybe it becomes a someday maybe, or you change the deadline.
Don't make it, do it, or renegotiate it. That clarifies things. It links back to capturing everything too, doesn't it?
Yes, capturing isn't about saying everything is equally important. It's about acknowledging all those agreements, all those incompletions. Because uncaptured ones create that background pressure and guilt. Getting them out and visible is the first step to dealing with them consciously.
You'll feel better just knowing you've got it all down somewhere, which leads to, well, the need to trust that somewhere.
Trust is the linchpin of the whole system. If you don't trust that your lists are complete, that you'll review them, that things won't fall through the cracks, your brain will simply refuse to let go. It'll keep trying to manage everything internally.
And that's when you get overwhelmed again, right? Constantly feeling interrupted by your own thoughts.
Exactly, that interruptitis. If any part of the system breaks down, the capture isn't complete, the processing isn't happening, the review is skipped, trust erodes, and the mind takes back over.
I heard there was an anecdote about using in-baskets even at home.
Yeah, Alan mentions using them with his wife to handle simple requests or share items rather than constantly interrupting each other. It sounds formal, but he found it fostered politeness and actually led to more quality time because the mechanical stuff was handled smoothly by the system.
Interesting. And this applies to teams and organizations too, creating a culture where it's okay to manage commitments clearly.
Absolutely. A culture where it's acceptable to say, I have too much, and to renegotiate. And we're asking clarifying questions like, so what's the next action on this? Is normal and encouraged.
What's the next action? That question seems to pop up again and again. It's incredibly powerful for cutting through vagueness.
It really is. It forces clarity on any commitment.
Okay, let's talk procrastination. We all do it. How does GTD help us overcome that resistance, create the option of doing something, even when we don't feel like it?
A lot of procrastination comes back to that lack of clarity, especially about the next action. If a task feels vague or overwhelming, like due taxes,
Yeah.
it's easy to avoid it.
Right, because due taxes isn't an action, it's a huge project.
Exactly.
Mm.
And our minds are powerful. Think about visualizing a lemon. You can almost taste the sourness, right? Your body reacts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we think about a vague, daunting task, our minds can conjure up all sorts of negative feelings and worst-case scenarios, especially if we're creative. It creates this negative anticipation that makes us want to run away.
Like Mark Twain said, something like, I've known many troubles, but most of them never happened.
That's the one. Our minds amplify the dread. But GTD suggests that simply identifying the very next small concrete step can break that cycle.
So instead of due taxes, the next action might be find last year's tax folder or download tax forms.
Yes, something small, physical, and unambiguous.
Yeah.
Taking that one step often dissolves the resistance. Items on lists either attract you or repel you. A clear next action is much more likely to attract you or at least feel less repellent.
It makes the task feel doable, less like a giant monster.
Precisely. Think about vague items on typical to-do lists, like meeting with committee or bank situation. What's the action? Call someone. Draft an agenda. Go to the bank. Without that clarity, the item just sits there, creating mental clutter and prompting avoidance.
So figuring out the next action up front when you first process the item is way more productive than waiting until you're forced to deal with it.
Massively more productive, especially in knowledge work. Clarifying actions on the front end saves so much time and stress later. It helps you feel like you're winning, like you're in control, cooperating with your world instead of fighting it.
It's not just task management then. It sounds like it's about managing your focus and energy more intelligently.
That's a great way to sum it up. GTD provides a framework for multi-level outcome management. It helps you connect those high-level goals, your vision, your purpose, with the mundane, ground-level actions needed to get there.
Marrying the big picture with the tiny steps.
Yes, using the same kind of clear thinking for both. And the beauty is, even applying these principles a little bit, becoming just slightly better at capturing, clarifying next actions, and reviewing, can bring significant improvements. It fosters a personal culture of relaxed control and high performance.
Okay, this has been a fantastic deep dive. As we wrap up, let's crystallize the absolute key takeaways. If someone listening wants to start today, what are the most crucial first steps?
I'd say 3 things. 1, start capturing. Get a tool notebook, app, tray, and begin dumping everything that has your attention into it. Get it out of your head.
Capture everything. Got it.
2, process that captured stuff by asking for each item, what's the very next physical action? Define that step. If it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it.
Define the next action. Crucial. And 3,
3, set up some basic context lists for those next actions, at phone, at computer, at errands, and commit to a weekly review. Look at everything regularly to stay current and maintain trust.
capture, next action, review. Seems like a powerful starting point.
It truly is. Mastering just those can make a world of difference.
Fantastic. And maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Once you start implementing this, once you gain that clarity and control over your commitments, what else becomes possible in your life? What energy gets freed up when your mind isn't constantly juggling open loops? Something to think about.
Definitely something to consider. The potential is significant.
Well, thanks so much for sharing all this insight. It's been incredibly helpful.
My pleasure. It's powerful stuff when you put it into practice.